What is up, quarantiners? It is week 21 of 2020. I believe we're entering into our third month of quarantine here in New York City. It's Monday, May 18th, and I've just spent the past week implementing a new goals section on my web app that I use to keep my projects organized and keep my goal setting and my list of tasks and things that I need to be working on all in one place. So I'm excited for the first time this week to be using this new goals section to jump into a weekly planning session and basically start thinking about where am I trying to go over the next few weeks, over the next few quarters? What are my goals? How are my goals going to break down in terms of how the timeline for the rest of this quarantine is going to play out, and then what my opportunities are going to be after quarantine ends? So why don't we jump right into it? Let's take a look at how this looks here on the website. As you can see here, I'm looking at the current quarter. This is Q2 of 2020. Before we jump into the weekly goals for this week and of course the daily goals for today, I like to try to step back and try to think about where I'm at in terms of the year, what my goals are overall for the year. As you can see here, I've already listed out a few goals that I'm, trying to think of as like overarching goals for the year. We can just jump through them real quickly. I'm really trying to get started with these YouTube videos and get used to making these, maybe 3 or 4 of these a week, just so it kind of becomes second nature for me as I work on all of my different projects, to try to document some of that and put that out there into the public sphere, just to get used to presenting it, get used to kind of validating my thought process, and then hopefully getting some feedback from other people that are working through some similar kind of ideas. So thank you, of course, for checking this out, and please, if you do have a minute, it would mean a lot if you could drop me a comment or drop me a like on the video and let me know that you're engaging with this, and let me know whether or not you find this useful. So, as you can see, I break down my goals by different projects. I have my projects here on the left. This is kind of a personal goal, that first one. The second one is for the Serenity Project, which is this web application that I've been building kind of on the back burner, over the past couple of years. And I've really been trying to lean into this during quarantine to get it really fine-tuned to be able to use on a daily basis for organizing my projects. And so a goal for the Serenity Project is to make these daily YouTube videos showing how I use this web app to organize my work in my life. And then, of course, to get this web app up to a fully functioning and usable state. In this, remember, this is for the year. This is for 2020. These are kind of the bigger picture things that I want to be doing this year. When it comes to Fredrickson Studios, that's my photo studio where I make my bread and butter kind of money that enables me to do these more creative projects on the side. A goal for this year is to grow my client base to add at least 20 new clients this year. But then, of course, we're in the middle of this complete economic shutdown. So another goal is just to simply get back to work at some point and figure out what the role for my photography work is going to be in this post-COVID economy whenever that starts to kick back into effect this year here in New York City. I have another project that I've been working on kind of in the back burner for a while called The Future of Purpose. It's going to be a podcast where I explore what the role of human work is in the future economy as technology starts to take over more and more sectors of the economy and make human labor more and more irrelevant, I think, in the distant future. But in the short term, what are the things that we can be thinking about today to be more agile as creative beings in an economy that is rapidly changing. So that's something that I have as a goal for this year, is to really get started on that podcast. And of course, I have my Real Model Stories project that I started just before this coronavirus thing kicked off, and I was just hitting my stride on that project when this happened, and I kind of had to put that on the back burner because it's not safe right now to be having people come into my studio and do interviews and do photo shoots. So that's something I'm going to have to get back to once COVID starts to calm down here in New York. But let's jump into the quarter. So those are kind of the overarching goals for the year that I'm thinking about. I'm trying to keep those, in the back of my head as I make goals on a quarterly basis and a weekly basis. So it's nice to check in with those periodically. But the goals for this specific quarter, so this quarter is starting in April. So April 1st up until the end of June, April, May, and June. And man, it's been a weird quarter because April, of course, was like right at the beginning, right at the height of this COVID madness when everybody in New York was just like shutting down, staying home. I spent a month basically not really doing anything useful or productive while I was trying to figure out, what my trajectory was going to be, in this situation where it felt like we just didn't know when this economic shutdown was going to relax. So fortunately, this month, we're now in May, I've been getting back into my studio. It's just me here. I'm able to rollerblade in every day, so I'm not interacting with other people and hopefully not making myself a potential transmission vector for the virus, which is super important to me. I don't want to be, out there and just not worrying about these safety protocols. It's important to me to be really, still socially isolating, not interacting with people, but at the same time, getting in here, being, figuring out a way to be productive during this downtime. So these videos, this web app, and then of course, getting back to my photography work is going to be, what my goals are for this quarter. So I'm trying to make at least 3 videos a week about how I structure my work and life using this Serenity web app to organize it all. I'm trying to make sure that I really get used to skating into the studio every day. It is a 12-mile skate, so I've been only doing it a few times a week. Ideally, I'd like to get to a point where I could do that every day and it's manageable. I'm working up to that. It's definitely a challenge when I think the most I've done is like 125 miles in a week, and I think that probably I need to be upward closer to 160 miles if I'm going to be doing that every day, 5 days a week, trying to take weekends off and just kind of enjoy a little bit of time off during this downtime. I need to get this new goals section fully implemented on this web app. I'm really happy with the progress I made on that last week. It's basically fully functional. The only thing that it's missing at this point is a navigation so that I can go and look back at previous days and be like, okay, yesterday, these are my goals. What was my progress on those goals? Can I mark them off as completed? Are any of them incomplete? Do I want to take any of the incomplete ones and move them to today and work on them today? Or do I want to put them on the back burner? So that navigation is going to be really useful. I started it over the weekend, but didn't really get it finished. So hopefully at some point during this week, I can finish that up. But that's going to be on the back burner for this week because I did a lot of great work on the Serenity app. But this week, it's been funny because I made these crazy long coding videos. I did three videos. One was a design video, and then 2 were development videos where I was taking that design and implementing it. And it was a lot of fun to do. I learned a lot from watching myself work and watching my thought process unfold. But I think it's pretty clear that development videos probably are not going to be the ideal type of work that I'm going to be showing on this channel, just because it's not super engaging. It's not super interesting, I think, for other people. And it is really time consuming to produce these hour-long or 2-hour-long videos and then try to edit them down to something that's watchable. And I just don't see myself doing that on a regular basis. And it took a lot more time last week to do the videos than it did to do the actual work. And that's just not an ideal situation. So it was really good to do the work and to have the opportunity to really, lean into it and figure out what would it take to do this kind of work on a regular basis, and then be able to reflect at the end of the week and say, you know what, that's not an ideal scenario for how I want to do this going forward. So that's okay. This week we're going to pivot. We're going to figure out so for Frederickson Studios, we got to think about this quarter. We got to start thinking about how are we going to have a plan for restarting client work once the economy starts to come back? What type of work is going to be available for photographers in this new economy? Because New York City is going to have these different phases where certain businesses start to open up. And I'm hoping that there's going to be an appetite and businesses are going to have a budget for doing photography work to promote their businesses, whether it's on social media or just getting menus updated and things like that, whatever it is that people need. Maybe it's new headshots, corporate headshots might be a thing. So I don't know what that plan is going to look like yet. And I need to start thinking about that. And I need to start maybe reaching out to some of my older clients and trying to reach out to new clients to figure out what that plan is going to look like. But we're not quite there yet. I think maybe by the end of this month, maybe next week, we start thinking about that. And again, I'm going to have to start thinking about what my plan for the next quarter is as unemployment runs out in the end of July. And August is traditionally a dead month here in New York in terms of work. So August could be a challenging month if unemployment has run out and the economy hasn't restarted enough that I'm able to get enough jobs to keep this business afloat. So that could be a challenging situation. So we got to figure out a plan for that as well. I've got a couple other items that I'd like to get done this quarter on the Serenity app. I'd like to add color coding for projects. I'd like to update the journal to be a little bit more effective in terms of showing the work that I'm doing on. And then I'd like to create a health section for this web app so I can keep track of, the fitness work that I'm doing and be able to track, what my progress is like on certain health goals. So these are things that I'm keeping in the back of my head. I'm not going to jump into any of these right away. We're making good progress on these top 3 right here. These next ones down here, we're going to start picking them off over the next few weeks. We're about halfway through the quarter right now, so we still have another 6 weeks of this quarter to jump into the rest of these. So it's good to get an overview of kind of where we stand in terms of what our goals are for the quarter and where we are in making progress on those goals. So let's jump into this week. It's week 21 of 2020. We just came off a really good week doing this web development, but I'd really like to get back to my roots of doing photography work. At the end of the day, it's nice to have all these other projects and all these other ideas for, doing work that's interesting and engaging and able to, kind of engage with other people, other creatives, and figure out how they're handling, the economy and figuring out, new directions for their work as the economy changes. But really, fundamentally, at the end of the day, I need to really stay in touch with my creative roots in terms of my expression as an artist, my expression as a photographer. And I'd really just like to take this opportunity this week because we're not quite ready to jump back into the growing of the business and getting in touch with clients and figuring out what our economic plans are going to be, our business plans are going to be. We're not quite ready for that. So I want to take this week to jump into doing creative work and doing some really fun photography projects. I do need to get that little bit of goals implementation finished with the navigation. So that's here as a goal for this week, but it's not going to be a priority. That's going to be something that's going to happen on the back burner. We're not going to document that in videos. What I really want to do though is shoot photography. Let's see right here. We started with this one. Publish 3 photography related videos. Shoot a photography portrait video. I really want to do a fun video about shooting portraits here in my studio, and the theme for that is going to be documenting this crazy quarantine hair, this beard that I've got going on. When the economy is running and I'm doing a lot of client work, I like to keep it fresh shaven and fresh cut, and it's been really interesting, doing work like this, video work where I'm putting it out into the public sphere, but I'm also like, there's no opportunity for haircuts right now in New York City. And I've kind of let the beard grow out. And, I think this is an interesting time to document this. And I want to do a portrait shoot where I capture, what was going on with my hair and my beard in the middle of this quarantine and economic shutdown. So I want to do a portrait video shoot where I do portrait photography and I capture that as a video as well. I want to do a workflow video where I show how I take my photography from the SD card straight out of the camera, how I back up my work in terms of hard drives, how I load that into Lightroom, how I do the editing in Lightroom, how I do some of the retouching in Photoshop as necessary, how that all gets saved out and then either uploaded to a website for clients to download, or in the case of my own personal work, how I organize it for publication to social media and how I think about how it's going to go out on different social media channels. I think that'll be a lot of fun. That includes a post-production workflow and social media strategy video. So those are 3 videos: the portrait shooting video, the editing workflow video, and then the post-production workflow and social media strategy video. I think those will be really cool to get done this week. If I can, get through those, I think that would be a good week for me. And so that's kind of where we stand in terms of our weekly goals. Let's figure out, jumping into today, what do we need to get done today, Monday, May 18th, the beginning of the week? We need to shoot our weekly planning video. Boom, that's what we're doing right here. Let's mark that as in progress. We need to publish 3rd video from last week that rendered over the weekend. I got back into the studio. It was ready to publish, and that is publishing right now. Let's check and see if that's done. 100% uploaded. Upload complete. Let's mark that as complete. Excellent. And then next, we need to shoot this photography portrait video. I think I'm ready to jump into that today. Why don't we get off the computer, stretch our legs out a little bit in the studio, and start experimenting with some really fun quarantine hair-related portrait photography. Let's do it. Let's jump in.